In an age where information is more accessible than ever, true understanding has never been rarer. We live in a world drowning in content. Endless scrolls, short videos, podcasts, articles, and books. Most people consume massive amounts of information daily, yet very few develop genuine wisdom or depth. This is not an accident. It is the predictable result of how we engage with knowledge. Mortimer Adler, the influential 20th century philosopher and educator, spent much of his life studying this exact problem. Through his work on the great books of the Western world and his classic book, How to Read a Book, Adler made a powerful distinction that explains why most people remain stuck in mediocrity despite having access to more knowledge than any previous generation. Adler argued that there is a fundamental difference between information and understanding. Information is raw data, facts, opinions, summaries, and surface-level content. Understanding, on the other hand, is the ability to see connections, evaluate ideas critically, synthesize different perspectives, and apply knowledge meaningfully. Most people today are excellent at gathering information, but poor at achieving real understanding. This gap is why 99% of people will stay mediocre. They collect knowledge like collectors of stamps or coins. They have more of it, but it doesn't transform who they are or how they think. The modern information trap. We are living in the golden age of information consumption. Platforms like TikTok, YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, and podcasts deliver bite-sized knowledge at an unprecedented speed. You can learn about stoicism, productivity, psychology, history, or finance in 60 seconds. On the surface, this seems empowering. In reality, it often creates the illusion of learning without the substance. When you scroll through quick summaries of great ideas, your brain registers the information. You might even feel smarter for a few minutes. But because the content is consumed passively and quickly, it rarely integrates into your thinking. You move on to the next video or post, and the previous one fades away. Adler would call this elementary or inspectional reading, or listening, taken to an extreme. It is the lowest level of engagement. You're skimming the surface of ideas without ever diving deep. Over time, this habit trains your mind to expect constant novelty and easy consumption. Deep, sustained thinking starts to feel uncomfortable, almost boring. The result? People accumulate thousands of hours of content consumption, but show very little growth in wisdom, judgment, or character. They can quote philosophers or repeat productivity tips, yet their actual thinking remains shallow. They stay mediocre not because they lack access to great ideas, but because they never truly wrestle with them. Consider the average person's daily digital diet. They wake up and immediately check their phone. They consume 15 to 20 short videos before breakfast, each offering a life-changing insight. They listen to a podcast while commuting, scroll through LinkedIn thought leadership posts during lunch, and end the day with YouTube summaries of books they'll never read. By the end of the week, they've been exposed to hundreds of ideas. Yet if you ask them to explain any single concept deeply or apply it consistently, most would struggle. This is the great modern illusion, mistaking exposure for education. Information versus understanding. Mortimer Adler was very clear on this distinction. Information answers, what? Understanding answers, so what? And why does this matter? When you consume information, you collect facts and opinions. When you develop understanding, you learn to see how ideas connect across different fields and authors, evaluate the strength of arguments, identify assumptions and contradictions, apply concepts to real-life situations, form your own reasoned conclusions. Most modern content is designed for information transfer, not understanding. A 60-second TikTok about the dichotomy of control can give you the basic idea, but it cannot teach you how to live it during a crisis. A summary of Meditations can tell you what Marcus Aurelius wrote, but it cannot train you to think like him. Adler believed that true education and real personal growth comes from moving beyond passive consumption into active engagement. This is why he emphasized higher levels of reading, particularly analytical reading and syntopical reading. The psychology behind our addiction to shallow content. Our brains are not neutral participants in this process. They are wired to prefer easy, novel, and emotionally stimulating information. Social media platforms and short-form video apps have weaponized this wiring through sophisticated algorithms designed to maximize engagement, not understanding. Every time you swipe to the next video, you get a small dopamine hit. Your brain learns that quick, surface-level content feels rewarding. Over time, deeper material starts to feel effortful and unrewarding by comparison. This is not a character flaw, it's a trained behavior. This creates a dangerous feedback loop. The more shallow content you consume, the weaker your attention span becomes. The weaker your attention span, the harder it becomes to engage with complex ideas. Eventually, even moderately challenging material feels exhausting. People then double down on easier content, further atrophying their capacity for deep thought. Adler saw early versions of this problem in the mid-20th century with the rise of mass media. He would likely be horrified by how much worse it has become. The tools that were supposed to democratize knowledge have instead created the most sophisticated system for keeping minds shallow in human history. Syntopical reading, the key to deep thinking. Syntopical reading is the highest level of reading according to Adler. It involves reading multiple books or sources on the same subject and creating your own synthesis. Instead of reading one book in isolation, you put several authors in conversation with each other. For example, instead of just reading one book on discipline, you might read Marcus Aurelius on self-control, Epictetus on what is up to us, modern authors on habit formation, ancient texts on virtue. You then compare their views, identify agreements and disagreements, and develop your own deeper understanding of discipline. This process forces your mind to do real work. It builds intellectual muscle. It moves you from being a consumer of other people's ideas to becoming someone who can think independently and originally. In today's fast-paced digital world, syntopical reading feels almost revolutionary. It requires time, focus, and patience, qualities that are increasingly rare. But this is exactly why it creates such a massive advantage. While most people are scrolling through surface-level content, those who practice syntopical reading are building a depth of understanding that compounds over years. Syntopical reading also develops originality. When you only consume pre-digested summaries, your thinking tends to mirror the most popular takes of the moment. When you synthesize multiple perspectives yourself, you develop ideas that are genuinely your own. This is how real intellectual growth and creative thinking emerge. How to develop syntopical reading in the age of TikTok. You don't need to abandon short-form content completely. You can use it strategically while building deeper habits. Here's a practical approach. Use short-form content as a starting point, not the destination. Let a TikTok or reel spark your interest in a topic. Then commit to going deeper with intention. Choose a specific subject to explore syntopically. Pick one important area: discipline, decision-making, courage, happiness, leadership, etc. And spend several weeks or months studying it from multiple angles. Read multiple sources on the same topic. Select 3 to 5 substantial books or major works. Don't just read them one after another. Take structured notes on how each author approaches the subject, their core assumptions, and their conclusions. Create your own synthesis. After engaging with multiple sources, ask yourself powerful questions. Where do these authors agree and disagree? What assumptions does each one make that the others challenge? What evidence or reasoning feels strongest? What is my own conclusion after considering all perspectives? Write and reflect regularly. Summarize your findings in your own words through journaling or note-taking. This is where understanding truly solidifies. The act of writing forces clarity that passive consumption never achieves. Practice active engagement while reading. Mark up physical books. Write questions and objections in the margins. Argue with authors. This transforms reading from consumption into dialogue. Protect your attention. Set specific times for deep reading and protect them ruthlessly. Turn off notifications. Read in longer, focused blocks rather than fragmented sessions. This process is slower and more demanding than scrolling. That's the point. Depth requires deliberate effort. Most people are unwilling to put in that effort, which is why they remain mediocre despite having access to extraordinary resources. The hidden costs of staying mediocre. The consequences of remaining at the level of information consumption extend far beyond not reaching your potential. Shallow thinking affects decision-making in every area of life. People who only consume surface-level content tend to make reactive rather than thoughtful choices. They follow trends instead of developing principles. They struggle with nuance in relationships, politics, and personal challenges. In professional life, those who can only repeat popular ideas rarely become true leaders or innovators. They become competent at best, replaceable at worst. In personal life, shallow thinking leads to repeated patterns and unresolved problems because surface solutions never address root causes. Perhaps most tragically, people who never develop deep understanding often feel a quiet sense of emptiness despite their consumption. They've learned so much, yet feel they haven't truly grown. This is the hidden cost Adler warned about, the difference between being well-informed and being wise. The choice is yours. You can continue consuming endless short-form content and feel like you're learning. Or you can slow down, choose important topics, and engage with them syntopically. One path leads to the comfortable illusion of progress. The other leads to real growth and intellectual strength. Mortimer Adler spent his life fighting for the second path. He believed that anyone willing to do the work could develop the kind of understanding that transforms both mind and character. The tools and information available today are greater than anything Adler could have imagined. The question is no longer access. It is engagement. The 99% who stay mediocre are not necessarily unintelligent. Many of them are actually quite smart and consume a lot of content. What they lack is the habit of deep, syntopical thinking. They collect information instead of building understanding. The 1% who rise above mediocrity are the ones who treat knowledge as something to be wrestled with, not just consumed. They read widely, but think deeply. They move beyond summaries and hot takes into genuine synthesis and personal application. Final call to action. If this episode made you rethink how you consume information and what real understanding actually requires, I'd love to hear from you. Like this video if you're ready to move beyond surface-level learning. Comment below with one topic you want to explore syntopically. I read every single comment. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss the next deep dive into timeless ideas made practical. And if this resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Your mind is your greatest asset. Let's stop collecting information and start building real understanding. See you in the next level.